What if your biggest limitation isn't your body, your past, or your circumstances, but the way you think about all three? That's what Marcus Aurelius believed, and maybe you felt it too. You set goals, you make plans, you try to stay disciplined. But then life happens. Stress piles up, distractions sneak in, emotions take the wheel. And before you know it, your day is gone, and so is your clarity. You tell yourself, tomorrow I'll be better. But tomorrow feels just like today. What if the real problem isn't that you're broken, but that your mind was never trained? Because here's the truth no one teaches in school. Mental strength is not a gift, it's a practice. And your mind, it's a muscle. It grows stronger with repetition or weaker with neglect. The ancient Stoics knew this centuries ago. They lived in chaos, war, betrayal, loss, and yet they built lives of deep peace and purpose. Not because the world around them was gentle, but because their minds were trained to remain strong within it. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming unshakable. So if you've ever felt stuck in your own head, if you've ever wondered why motivation fades so quickly, or why clarity disappears when pressure hits, this video is for you. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to retrain the way you think. Not with hype, not with hacks, but with 10 timeless mental shifts that Stoic philosophers used to build powerful, principled lives, and that modern science is now beginning to prove. No fluff, no preaching, just clarity, control, and calm, earned through practice. Because once you learn to train your mind, you stop reacting to life, and you start leading it. Number 1, you're not trapped, you're untrained. You're not weak, you're not broken, and you're not stuck. You've just never been taught how to train your mind. Most people go through life reacting, not thinking. They let emotions pull them in different directions. They let circumstances decide their mood, and setbacks decide their worth. And when things don't go their way, they tell themselves, I'm just not motivated enough. Maybe I wasn't meant for this. I don't have the confidence, the focus, the discipline. But what if none of that is true? What if your mind is simply untrained? The Stoics believed that mental strength was not reserved for the few. It was a daily discipline anyone could practice. Epictetus was born a slave. He had nothing, no freedom, no power, no comfort. But he trained his mind so well that even emperors came to learn from him. His secret? He stopped trying to control the world and started controlling how he responded to it. And that's where your transformation begins too. Let's take a modern example. Sarah is a 32-year-old marketing manager who constantly feels overwhelmed. She wakes up to 15 notifications. Her to-do list grows faster than it shrinks. By noon, she's exhausted, not from doing too much, but from mentally juggling chaos. She thinks the problem is productivity, but the real issue is her mind is reacting to everything. Training the mind doesn't mean eliminating pressure. It means building the muscle to stay calm inside of it. The Stoics called this prohairesis, your ability to choose your inner response regardless of outer chaos. So, where do you start? Not with big goals, not with dramatic changes, but with a shift in identity. You are no longer someone trying to get it together. You're someone in training. Training to think clearly. Training to respond with strength. Training to reclaim your mind, not just for performance, but for peace. Because once you stop seeing yourself as trapped and start seeing yourself as untrained, you realize you're also unlimited. Number 2, emotional mastery isn't suppression, it's strength with direction. When most people hear the word Stoic, they picture a cold, distant person, someone who doesn't feel, doesn't care, doesn't flinch. But that's not Stoicism, that's numbness. The Stoics weren't stone-faced robots. They were human, deeply human. They felt pain, loss, anger, love. But instead of being ruled by their emotions, they trained them. They gave their emotions a direction. That's what true mastery looks like. not rejecting your emotions, but using them without letting them use you. Think of emotion like fire. Uncontrolled, it burns down everything, but directed, it powers entire cities. Let's look at a real-life story. David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL, grew up in an abusive home, failed in school, and struggled with obesity and fear. But he didn't suppress his pain, he turned it into fuel. He didn't ignore his emotions, he stared straight into them and said, "You don't get to run my life anymore." That's the Stoic mindset. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, journaled about his anxiety, frustration, and grief, not to escape them, but to channel them into wiser actions. He didn't see emotions as enemies, he saw them as information. And that's your next shift. You don't become strong by pretending nothing affects you. You become strong by responding based on values, not moods. Here's how to start. 1. Label your emotions without judging them. Instead of "I'm angry," say "Anger is present." That pause creates space. 2. Ask your emotion what it wants. Fear might want safety. Anger might want fairness. Listen, but don't hand over the wheel. 3. Decide with principle, not impulse. You can feel everything, but still act with clarity. As Epictetus said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about them. So don't suppress your feelings. Don't fake calm. Instead, practice control through awareness. Train your emotions the way an artist shapes raw clay. Firm hands, clear vision. Because when your emotions serve your purpose, you stop being reactive and you start becoming unstoppable. Number 3. The daily battlefield. Your reactions are training grounds. You don't need a crisis to train your mind. You don't need a life or death moment, a war zone, or a dramatic failure. All you need is today. The Stoics believed that every single moment is a chance to sharpen your character. Not someday, not when you're tested, but now. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your coworker takes credit for your idea, when you spill coffee on your shirt before a meeting. These aren't annoyances, they're invitations. Each one is a mini battlefield, and your reaction is the arena. You can let your emotions swing the sword, or you can practice the art of staying still. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Let's bring this down to earth. Imagine Josh. He's a dad of 2, managing a stressful job and trying to stay healthy. One morning, everything goes wrong. His kid spills milk, he's late for a meeting, and his boss sends a passive-aggressive email. In that moment, Josh has 2 choices. 1. Let the chaos flood his mind. React, blame, snap, spiral. 2. Pause, breathe, recenter, choose a response that aligns with who he wants to be. Josh isn't in the Navy SEALs. He's not on a mountaintop meditating. But in that ordinary moment, he's training like a Stoic. Here's the shift. Don't wait for the big tests to prove your strength. Use the small irritations to build it. Because resilience isn't made during a storm. It's built in the quiet, daily decision to stay calm when you could explode. Try this today. When something frustrates you, smile. Not because it's fun, but because it's practice. When someone interrupts you, pause. Not for them, but for you. When life throws noise at you, treat it as your daily rep, like lifting mental weights. Every moment is training, and your mind is always listening. So train with intention, because how you respond to the small things determines how you'll rise in the big ones. Number 4. Journaling like a general. Strategic self-awareness. The most important conversations in life are the ones you have with yourself. But here's the problem. Most people never stop to listen. They live in constant motion, busy, distracted, reactive. So their thoughts run wild, their emotions take over, and their lives, they follow. The Stoics knew this. That's why they journaled, not as a hobby, but as a weapon. A tool for clarity, a mirror for truth, a compass for action. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote his private thoughts daily, never meant for anyone to read. Yet those pages became meditations, one of the greatest guides to self-mastery ever written. And here's the beauty. He wasn't writing to be wise. He was writing to stay honest. He'd ask, "Where did I act without reason? Where did I let emotions win? What can I do better tomorrow?" That's the level of discipline we're talking about. That's journaling like a general, because your life is your campaign, and your mind is your battlefield. Let's be clear. This isn't a gratitude diary. It's not a venting ground. It's training. Real mental training asks questions that sharpen, not soften. 1. Where did I overreact today? 2. What did I fear that didn't actually happen? 3. Which choice moved me closer or further from the person I want to become? Meet Lauren. She's a startup founder juggling deadlines, investors, and a family. She journals every night, not because she has time, but because she needs perspective. In 5 minutes, she downloads the day, not just what happened, but how she responded. Over time, patterns emerged. Triggers became visible. Choices became intentional. That's the shift. Journaling isn't reflection, it's reconnaissance. You're gathering data, not just about what life did to you, but how you showed up. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Journaling helps you spot the difference. So tonight, don't just scroll your phone to sleep. Grab a pen, ask one honest question, answer it without filters, and repeat. Because the more clearly you see yourself, the more powerfully you can train your mind to act on purpose. Number 5. Pleasure is not peace. Voluntary discomfort as mental gym. Most people chase comfort like it's the ultimate prize. A softer bed, a faster delivery, a more convenient way out. And yet, they feel more anxious, more fragile, more exhausted than ever. Why? Because comfort is a liar. It whispers, "You're safe now," but it quietly steals your strength. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Seneca, one of Rome's richest men, would occasionally sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, eat plain food. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. He was training his mind to say, "If this is the worst, I can handle it." That's the power of voluntary discomfort. You lean into challenge, not for the suffering, but for the strength it reveals. Let's make this real. Think of Jake, a 24-year-old in a high-paying tech job. Every convenience is at his fingertips: Uber, food delivery, streaming. But with each shortcut, his resilience shrinks. Until one day when real pressure hits, a breakup, a layoff, he has no tools, just panic. Now think of Leah. She practices what she calls mini hardships: cold showers, long walks without headphones, fasting 1 day a week, a 10-minute daily silence without screens. Nothing extreme, just enough to stretch the edge of comfort. And because she chooses small discomfort daily, when life gets chaotic, she stays calm. That's the Stoic way. You don't wait for the world to test you. You test yourself, on your terms. Try this. Take a cold shower, not to suffer, but to remind your body that discomfort isn't fatal. Delay gratification. Wait 15 minutes before that treat. Fast from noise. 30 minutes of intentional silence. No phone, no music, just thought. These are reps, mental pull-ups. And each one tells your mind you are not fragile. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Pleasure is easy, but it makes you soft. Discomfort is hard, but it makes you unshakable. So don't chase ease. Choose challenge, and build a mind that doesn't break when the world does. Number 6. Your focus is your fortress. Control what you let in. If your mind is your most powerful weapon, then your attention is the trigger. And most people, they give it away for free. Every scroll, every ping, every headline, every fake emergency. Each one chips away at your focus until your mind isn't a fortress, it's a food court. And in that chaos, there's no clarity, no stillness, no strength, just noise. The Stoics would call that a kind of self-abandonment, because you don't need to be controlled by others to lose your power. You just need to let your focus drift, unquestioned, unmanaged. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." Translation: your input becomes your identity. Let's look at a modern example. Tanya is a creative, brilliant writer, but she spends the first hour of her day scrolling headlines, checking 3 messaging apps, and reading Twitter drama. By 9 a.m., her brain is fried, and she hasn't even started her own work. Compare that to Nate. He begins every day with silence. He protects the first hour. No news, no messages, no noise. He writes down what matters, reflects on what he controls, and sets his intention. His brain, focused, filtered, fortified. Same world, different walls. Here's how to build your own focus fortress. 1. Create gates around your attention. Ask, does this information serve my clarity or steal it? 2. Own the first and last hour of your day. These bookends shape your entire nervous system. 3. Design your inputs with intention. Subscribe to thinkers, not reactors. Feed your mind what you want it to become. Because here's the hard truth. If you don't control what enters your mind, someone else will. And they'll sell it back to you, layered in fear, distraction, and noise. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Today, that includes what you watch, read, scroll, and hear. So treat your focus like sacred ground, because when you protect your attention, you begin to rebuild your mind, thought by thought. Number 7. Action over affirmation. Virtue is built, not branded. We live in a time where saying you are something often replaces becoming it. I'm disciplined, I'm mindful, I'm focused. But Stoicism teaches us, virtue isn't a label, it's a habit. Marcus Aurelius never called himself Stoic. He didn't post quotes. He didn't talk about mindset. He just lived it, in silence, in crisis, in daily decisions. Because character isn't built in your feed, it's built in your footsteps. Let's be honest, it feels good to affirm ourselves, to write discipline on a sticky note, to say, tomorrow I'll wake up at 5 and change my life. But if that intention never becomes action, it's not strength, it's theater. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, meaning alignment. Your words, your choices, your values pointing in the same direction. Let's take a real example. Tyler loves self-improvement. He reads books, listens to podcasts, writes quotes on his mirror. But he also hits snooze 5 times, avoids hard conversations, and scrolls for hours at night. His self-image is disciplined, but his life? Out of sync. Now meet Rosa. She doesn't say much, but every day she does what she said she would. She moves her body. She writes in her journal. She says no when she means it. No drama, no branding, just alignment. Here's how to shift. 1. Audit your actions. Ask, if someone saw my routine but not my words, what would they assume my value? 2. Reduce performance. Increase practice. Let your private life reflect your highest standard. 3. Choose tiny integrity. It's not about grand gestures. It's about doing what you said, especially when no one's watching. Seneca said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. You don't need to post. You need to practice. Because real virtue doesn't need validation. It shows up, even in silence. So let go of the identity talk. Forget the affirmation fog. And return to what matters. Are you living it or just liking it? Number 8. Learn to lose. The art of practicing powerlessness. Everyone loves winning. But if you want to train your mind, you have to learn how to lose. Not just survive loss, practice it. Because the truth is, there are moments in life where no mindset, no routine, no strategy will stop the storm. You will be misunderstood. You will be rejected. You will lose things: money, people, status, control. And in those moments, your training is revealed. The Stoics didn't wait for disaster to build resilience. They rehearsed it. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. He would imagine losing his wealth, his health, even his friends, not to worry, but to prepare. Because once you can accept loss in theory, you reduce its power in reality. Let's bring this into the present. Maya is an entrepreneur who just got passed over for a major investment deal. She did everything right, pitched well, worked hard. Still, the answer was no. She felt anger, shame, panic. But instead of spiraling, she remembered her training. She had visualized failure. She had practiced detachment. And most importantly, she remembered. Rejection doesn't define her, response does. That's Stoicism. It doesn't teach you to ignore pain, it teaches you to outgrow it by seeing it for what it is, a test of how much control you've truly built inside. Here's how to practice powerlessness. 1. Rehearse worst-case scenarios, not obsessively, but lightly, curiously. If this happens, what would I do? 2. Label the loss. Name the fear. Language reduces anxiety. Vagueness grows it. 3. Anchor in what no one can take: your character, your choices, your perspective. These are yours, always. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can get the better of my will." That's power, not from avoiding pain, but from knowing you are more than what you lose. So the next time something slips through your fingers, pause, breathe, smile even, and remember, this too is part of the training. Number 9. Loneliness is a lie. Build solitude, not isolation. There's a difference between being alone and being with yourself. Most people fear silence, not because it's empty, but because it's honest. When you take away the noise, the scroll, the crowd, you're left with something raw, your own mind. And if that space feels chaotic, it's not loneliness, it's neglected solitude. The Stoics didn't run from silence, they built within it. Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of leading armies and ruling Rome, would return again and again to one thing: reflection. He called it his inner retreat, not a place, not a spa, but a state, a quiet room within himself that no chaos could enter. Today, we've confused connection with contact. We message more than ever, we comment, we consume. But inside, many feel more disconnected than ever from themselves. Here's the truth. Loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of presence. You can be surrounded by noise and still feel hollow. You can be sitting quietly and feel completely whole. Let's look at someone like Malik. He used to fill every silence with sound, podcasts, music, YouTube, background noise. The idea of being alone with his thoughts felt unbearable. But one day, after burning out completely, he tried something different. 10 minutes, just sitting, no input. It was brutal at first, but over time, he met someone in that space, himself. And it changed the way he moved through the world. That's solitude, and it's not loneliness, it's power. Here's how to build it. 1. Practice daily silence. Start with 5 to 10 minutes. No phone, no stimulation, just you. 2. Detach to reconnect. Take a walk without headphones. Eat without screens. Let boredom rewire your focus. 3. Ask deeper questions. Not, what do I need to do, but who am I becoming when I do it? Seneca said, a wise man is never less alone than when he is alone. So let the world be loud. Let others chase the scroll. You retreat inward, not to escape, but to return. Because the strongest minds don't fear silence, they're forged in it. Number 10. Don't just know Stoicism. Live it. You've read the quotes. You've heard the names, Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus. You've nodded at the wisdom, felt the clarity, understood the power. But now comes the real question. Will you live it? Because Stoicism isn't a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's not how much you know, it's how deeply you practice. Anyone can memorize a quote, but only a trained mind applies it when the heat rises. Only a trained mind stays calm when triggered, grounded when tested, compassionate when wronged. That's the mark of mastery. Not what you believe, what you embody. The Stoics weren't perfect. They didn't preach from mountaintops. They struggled, failed, doubted, just like us. But they showed up daily, in battle, in heartbreak, in silence. And so can you. Let's not make this philosophical. Let's make it practical. What would it look like to live Stoicism tomorrow morning? 1. You wake up, and before checking your phone, you ask, what do I control today? 2. You sit in 5 minutes of silence, not to escape, but to center. 3. You write down one thing that annoyed you yesterday and how you wish you had responded. 4. You face one discomfort, cold shower, hard conversation, delayed reward. And you end your day not with a scroll, but with a question. Did I live on purpose, or did I drift? This isn't performance, it's preparation. This is how the mind becomes steady. This is how the soul becomes strong. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. So don't just be a fan of Stoicism, be a student of it. A quiet warrior in a noisy world. Not chasing status, but building stillness. Not chasing control, but practicing freedom. No one's going to see the work you do in your mind, but you will feel it. And eventually, the world will too. Because a trained mind doesn't shout. It just moves with quiet force. Unshaken, unrushed, alive. Comment. If this journey resonated with you, type in the comments, I train my mind. And if you want to go deeper, don't forget to subscribe. Next up, how to apply Stoicism in relationships without becoming cold. Until then, stay centered, stay honest, stay in training.